Chapter 27. With a flight that was already more than 24 hours late, you'd think the passengers on the plane would have been impatient about another delay, but they all understood. After all, they'd all watched the same news report about the flag that Anna, Henry, and Jose had seen in the terminal just a few minutes after they'd met. They'd watched the news updates all throughout the day and night, including the ones that reflected on the significance of that American flag, how it had flown over Fort McHenry through the fog and smoke and still flying the morning after the British bombing, how Francis Scott Key said he had seen it from the ship in the harbor where he was being held prisoner, and how it inspired him to write a song that inspired a national anthem, and how that nation is known as the land of the free and the home of the brave still today. So the passengers were patient while police boarded their plane and removed Robert Snickerbottom in handcuffs, along with the skinny security guard who turned out to be Robert's little brother, Earl. They were patient while baggage handlers, working with the police, carefully unloaded all of the luggage until they found a large speaker case that belonged to the orchestra's sounds for a small planet. And inside that case was the enormous flag, frayed and faded, with more than one small piece missing, but otherwise unharmed. The case was supposed to hold the last of the 3 big speakers that the group had used at the museum performance. But the case had gone missing before the orchestra packed up for the night, so the speaker was packed in a makeshift carton instead. Thankfully, the passengers could watch satellite television while the plane waited on the runway, so they all ate their small bags of pretzels and sipped their Cokes and listened through their headphones as the news anchor pieced together what had happened. "Good evening," said a wavy-haired anchorman on the screen. "It has been a stunning day at the airport, where the region's 2 top news stories, our record-setting blizzard and the theft of the Star-Spangled Banner, came together late this morning in what only can be called an incredible story." The TV station cut away to a video of Snickerbottom and his brother being led from the plane. "Look, there I am!" The world's greatest grandma nudged her husband, who was dozing over his novel. "See? Me there? Harold, I'm in the 3rd window, see? You can kind of see my hair." The anchorman's voice continued over the video. Police say the presidential candidate Senator Robert Snickerbottom orchestrated the theft of the flag and planned to frame several members of the International Orchestra Sounds for a Small Planet, which played at the recent reopening of the Smithsonian Museum of American History. Snickerbottom's brother Earl, who is now cooperating with the investigation, told News Channel 9 that his brother planned the whole theft so that he could recover the flag himself, solving the mystery and appearing as a hero to the American people. The video cut to a soundbite from Earl. "Bobby, he always loved being the hero," Earl told the camera. "He puts that campaign video of himself saving the boy and the puppy on TV every chance he gets. Saving the puppy, saving the puppy. It's all we ever heard about at home, saving the puppy. Anyhow, he was falling behind with that Frumble lady in the polls and got to thinking he needed a bigger way to be a hero. So we went and stole the flag. Didn't go so well, I suppose." The anchorman came back on camera. "We're going live now to the Smithsonian with more on how this could have happened. News Channel 9's Veronica Mays at the museum. Veronica, what can you tell us?" "Well, Dave, museum officials are embarrassed that this could happen at all. They're conducting a full review of security procedures, but right now, it looks like the problem comes down to restricted areas and security staff. At a news conference just a moment ago, Museum Director Irma Jones told us that Snickerbottom and his security team were allowed in the off-limits flag chamber for a private tour the night of the museum reception." Emma Jones, appeared on the screen, standing at the microphone with her lips pursed together so tightly it was a wonder she could speak, but she did. "We were dismayed that such a thing could happen. We have been in the habit of allowing some restricted access to the museum's privileged guests, though we'll obviously be reviewing that policy now. But yes, we discovered that Senator Snickerbottom and his security team intentionally sneaked in an extra person into what was supposed to be a tour group of 4. Though our head curator who led the tour was aware of the 5th guest, he was called out of the flag chamber during the tour to assist with an emergency in the First Lady's exhibit. We believe it's likely that Snickerbottom also had one of his men create the emergency." A reporter's voice called out, "What emergency was that?" "Well," Ms. Jones said, "a mouse was set loose in the display case holding Michelle Obama's inaugural ball gown, and it could have been severely damaged by nibbling. And as I am not fond of mice, I summoned Mr. Brody to take care of it. At any rate, we have concluded that during this interruption, one of Snickerbottom's men hid himself in the chamber until the group was escorted out, and in the confusion, the officer who left with the men believed there were only 4 in the group, as the original list had indicated. Aren't there security cameras? A reporter asked. Well, yes. The guard who was on duty monitoring those cameras had gone missing, along with Snickerbottom's campaign manager, Zeke Skipworth. The police believe that the guard was paid to remain quiet while Earl Snickerbottom removed the flag from the chamber in a stolen case belonging to the orchestra, left the building with it, and then later made sure that it was slipped in with the rest of the orchestra's baggage. Rest assured, we are conducting a full review of security. Thank you, Miss Jones, the reporter said. And now we have someone who is most happy to see the flag recovered, Maria Sanchez McGilligan, who spent several months restoring this artifact. What do you have to add? Jose's mother appeared on the screen, looking exhausted but relieved. Her silver Jaguar earrings glimmered. I'd just like to say that we're thankful the flag is coming home. The anchorman came back on screen then. Indeed. And now, the most remarkable part of this story. The heist of the Star-Spangled Banner might be still a mystery if it weren't for a few clever young people who uncovered the plot during their long night at the Snowden airport. Our crew at the airport joins us now with a part of that story. The screen cut to the tippy-boot reporter in the light raincoat shivering on the windy runway. Look, Harold! The world's greatest grandma nudged her husband, waking him up. There she is! You can see her out the window with those kids and the police. There she is on TV. I'm Melinda Gomez, live at the airport, the woman on the runway said. I'm here with four special kids who saved the day. The camera widened out to show Anna, Jose, Henry, and Sinan. Every once in a while, Harambe would jump up on one of the kids so the viewers could see him. Tell me, kids, how did you first come to believe that the flag might be here at the airport? Down on the runway, with the TV lights shining in their faces, Henry looked at Jose. Jose looked at Anna. Anna looked at Henry. How did they come to figure out the flag was here? It had all started as such a crazy idea, and yet they'd all been pulled along in its wake. It was almost as if they were supposed to find the flag, as if this kind of detective work was in their blood, and it was, but they couldn't say so now. We just had a hunch, Henry said finally, and there was nothing else to do with all those hours, so we checked it out, and it was right. Remarkable, said Melinda Gomez, beaming. And I understood that you were in some tricky situations back there. Were you ever afraid? Nah, never, Henry said. Yes, Anna and Jose said at the same time. Anna looked over at Henry, and he was too. Out of the corner of his eye, she caught a glimpse of the movement and turned to see a snake arm being loaded into an ambulance nearby. Oh, and we actually had some help from... But just then, Snake Arm lifted his head from the stretcher, met her eyes, and raised a finger to his lips. Anna paused. Of course. The Silver Jaguar Society was still a secret, and even if it felt a little bigger, a little more real to her now. Well, we had Hump from Harambe here, and she gave the dog a pat on the head. Melinda Gomez laughed and looked into the camera. Brave dogs, and a brave kids and a brave dog, if you ask me. She turned back to the kids. You 4 must be pretty close to have worked together so well. How long have you been friends? Jose looked at his watch. About 26 hours, since yesterday morning. Then she stole my electrical outlet. When she stole my electrical outlet, Henry added, pointing to Anna. Melinda Gomez put her hand to her ear. Okay, she said. I'm getting word that the police have finished questioning Senator Snickerbottom and will be... What's that? She held her finger to her ear again and will be escorting him directly to jail. He's accused of grand theft and conspiracy, and more charges may follow. The camera panned to show 2 police officers leading Snickerbottom away from the terminal and ducking his head down to fit into the backseat of the police car. One of the officers held his cowboy hat. The Tootsie Rolls were gone. All that remained were smears of chocolate dog drool. Well, there you have it, Melinda Gomez said, and turned to Sinan. You've been awfully quiet, young man. Anything to add after all of this? Sinan looked at the microphone for a couple of seconds. I think that now, how do you say it? He reached into his back pocket for his sketch pad and flipped through the pages until he found what he was looking for and smiled. I am pleased to say that all this is over and the fat cat, and nudged him, fat lady sings. The passengers could be heard applauding loudly as the police car carrying Robert Snickerbottom was pulled away from the plane. They applauded when Sinan, Henry, Jose, and Anna and their parents boarded the plane, and again when the announcement came on that Harambe would be allowed to ride in first class as a pet, offering special services. They clapped once more, loudest of all, when the plane finally taxied to the runway and fired up its engines and took off for Vermont.